Speaker of Parliament, representatives of Members of Parliament, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I send you the greeting of peace. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. I think in events such as this, sometimes pause for thought is very important. Not only to cast our minds to 5 years ago, but even to cast our minds on the very profound words that have been said by the previous speakers. Because it's very easy to go through a list of speakers and go to a program without pausing to allow some wise words to penetrate. From the first speaker, His Excellency Amir al-Hakim, to the last speaker, Her Excellency, the Special Representative of the Secretary General, there are messages to ponder. It was emphasized regarding the plurality of Iraq, the challenges that were raised by His Excellency, the representative of the Yazidi community, and the challenges that remain. So what new can be added? And what is the purpose of today? For me, I feel extremely humbled. I address this gathering, and actually much more importantly, what it represents, with really extreme humility, recalling the courage of survivors and the trauma of communities, how the Yazidi people were so cruelly targeted. And it is really shocking, it is astonishing, the courage that has been demonstrated by the Yazidi community. It is a courage that I have seen, that I've had the honor to see in other communities amongst this rich, diverse mosaic that is Iraq, amongst the Christian community and the Shia community, amongst Kakai and Shabak, amongst Kurd and Arab, amongst all the different communities, there is this common trait that needs to be applauded. But the courage today that we focus on is that of the Yazidi community. You stood in defiance against the astonishingly perverted, corrupted, contorted, cruel, un-Islamic, inhumane ideology of Daesh. And you are here. You are here as individuals, and you are here as a community. You are here by the stories that we heard by the noble survivor that we had the honor to hear. And you are here by the art that is adorning the corridors of this conference center. So what is Unitad for? Unitad represents us, the collective voice of the international community for action. That this was just not a tragic event that befell the Yazidi community and befell Iraq, but was something of historical moment that required proper investigations, not of ordinary crimes, but the government of Iraq very rightly accepted that we have a mandate to investigate acts that constitute the crime of crimes, international crimes, namely the crimes of genocide, crimes against humanity, or war crimes. And the only reason we are here, members of the Yazidi community, to investigate the crimes against you and other Iraqis, is because of the consent of the government of Iraq. So unity between us as Unitad and you as survivors, between the international communities, other parts of the United Nations represented by the SRSG, the government and ourselves, is key if we're going to move forward and give life to what has been written down on the pages of a Security Council resolution. I do commend and I thank Yazda for the invitation today and acknowledge that their ability to self-organize, not just Yazda, Free Yazidi organization, Nadia's initiative, other NGOs, but Yazda were the first organization on the ground that self-organized and started collecting evidence, information, material, preserving statements that will hopefully come to Unitad for our own independent scrutiny and analysis to help us move forward with real, meaningful investigations. So lives certainly have been lost. Tears have been shed, and heartbreak has taken place. Heartbreak in the privacy of your homes that continues to be keenly felt. But amid all of that, amid the reconstruction efforts that others have spoken about, the challenges that have to be overcome, the fair trials for international crimes conducted here in Iraq that are absolutely essential, there is also cause for hope. The simple reality is, whether one would like to accept it or not, is that this old and ancient community that you represent was very largely unknown to vast vistas of humanity. Now, because of the noble example of yourselves, the Yazidi community, your faith, the diversity of Iraq is known from the White House to Downing Street to the Élysée Palace, to the Kremlin, to Beijing, from Stockholm to Sweden. You are now known as a community that has shown steadfastness, nobility, perseverance, and dignity in the face of almost incalculable suffering. That fortitude, that dignity, that resolve, I have seen in so many survivors. But it is perhaps most powerfully expressed by the action, by the advocacy of Iraq's first Nobel Prize winner, Nobel Peace Prize winner, but first Nobel Prize winner, Nadia Murad. And her call, which has been echoed by other speakers today, for justice, for accountability, is one that we will use our best efforts and strain every sinew to achieve. But it is not just justice on paper, it is a justice that puts the interest of survivors right at the center of our activities and the collective will of states. Properties have been lost as well. Temples have been broken. But one thing has been clear, and I think this is a sign of real optimism, that was not your treasure. The treasure of the Yazidi community, besides your faith and your identity, clearly is your women. Because the women of the Yazidi community stood tall. They stood strong when Daesh stooped so low, one wonders what on earth possessed them. And I think the role of Baba Sheikh has been key in emphasizing that the stigma must attach to the perpetrator of crimes, not to the victims, not to the survivors. There is, in the course of conflict, whether it is realized when one's soul is bruised, when one's heart is broken, hope. It's surprising, but it's true. Without the anguish and pain of the Second World War, Europe would not have moved on and had social change that would have allowed the suffragette movement and the right for women's march towards equality that continues to start. It wouldn't have been possible. So in the midst of the rubble and in the devastation, choices are there that have to be seized by Iraq, but also seized by communities that themselves have been targeted and Baba Sheikh's own resolve in emphasizing women should come back home and be supported is one to be applauded. Challenges, of course, remained, but it is my very sincere, my very humble and my heartfelt prayer that the wisdom and resolve that has already been indicated by Baba Sheikh will continue to extend and benefit other areas of Yazidi life. Women, of course, are your treasure. They are Iraq's treasure and humanity's treasure. And no woman should have to choose between the right of coming back to her family or losing her child, irrespective of how the child. This is a profound issue that Iraq has to face. When I met His Excellency Sayyid Sistani, before I even spoke, he emphasized the rights of the Yazidi community and the Christian community. He emphasized all victims of sexual violence, whether they are from the Yazidi community or the Shia community, the Sunni community, the Kakai, the Shabak, or other communities, should be supported. That collective will, that collective support upon people that have already gone through hell has to be continued. In the final analysis, and it's been mentioned, Iraq is your home. And your survival, your perseverance, your success in every sphere, not just success economically, in education, in the arts, in the sciences, is the best and most eloquent defeat of Daesh. And I wish you, and on behalf of Unitad, continued progress, and we are honored to work and interact with you and other members of the communities of Iraq to hopefully investigate those that are most responsible and have their accountability assessed in fair trials that have the ability to stand the test of time, so that not only in 5 years, in 50 years, there will be an independent record that will show what has been withstood by so many for so long. Many thanks indeed.